Welcome to Breakaway, the minor hockey podcast brought to you by the Coaches Site. I'm Aaron Wilbur, founder of the Coaches Site, your host, and as always, I'm joined by the executive director of the OMHA, Ian Taylor. Ian, it is great to see you, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, Aaron. Great to see you. Hope your summer was excellent. I know you summer of some troubles out in BC, right? So we're glad everyone's okay out there and or managing better anyway. So it's great to see you.
No, appreciate that. Great to see you too. It definitely was a little smoky at times, but it seems like we've got through the worst of it.
Yep.
How was your summer? What was the highlight? Give me the highlight.
Oh man, probably just getting away for a couple weeks. Little change of scenery.
Are you cottage at the lake guy? Cottage at the lake guy?
Yeah. For a couple of weeks, we rent a little place and kind of get away. And actually, I'll tell you, summer tends to be my opportunity, especially when we break, have a little break in July, is to get back to reading. So I read a lot of books. So that's good. So I'll put down, I'll put down the iPad to read. And I'm a like a hold the book kind of guy too. Like that's my, so if I get into a little bit of a habit there of reading every day, that's good. And then hope I can carry it on over the year, to be honest with you. And it doesn't always go that well, but that's always my restart. That's always my restart.
I concur. That's kind of one of my big goals in the summer. I'd be curious what, like, if you and I started a book club tomorrow, what would be the first book you'd bring to the club?
Oh boy,
check to the summer.
I don't know. I actually read, interestingly, I did read some fiction. I did read a couple of biographies. One was Roy Keane, used to be captain of Manchester United. A football fan. And then one was also on was a great book on Barcelona and kind of the history and Barcelona FC. So that was a good one. And mixed in, I actually mixed in a hockey book, which was oh gosh, what's the name of it? Freedom. Oh, I wish I had that. We'll have to add this to maybe to the information in our podcast.
Yes,
Aaron. Freedom to Win. It was about the Czechoslovakian hockey team, 1968, when they actually played the Soviets when they were under Soviet occupation rule, and they played them 2 years in a row at the World Championships and beat them. They didn't win the gold medal. They didn't win the gold medal of the competition, but they beat the Soviets. And then we all know the story. They actually Czech Republic ended up winning the gold medal at the 98 Winter Olympics. And that was their actual gold medal. Right. But a lot of those players had lived through, that occupation as kids. Right. So brilliant book, really good. And really would recommend that to anybody, especially anyone's interested in the history. It really focuses on the Holik family, but you remember Bobby Holik?
Yes, because his dad was the coach, right?
It was his dad and uncle, the two of them brothers that grew up, and brilliant, really good. So you know what? We should do that. We should come up with some book lists.
Yes,
because I'm as much as we're about hockey, and I do try to keep up. But I do read a lot of football, soccer, but I know both of us have also read a lot of stuff on leadership, on American football, that sort of stuff. Yeah. So we should put a list together.
I like that. Well, you know what? I think because you and I were hanging out in Tampere, Finland in the spring. And I believe you mentioned that book that I think it was coming out. You said this was on your radar. Right. So exactly. I'm going to jump on that. And then I will throw two in the mix since we're on the subject. I just finished reading The Undoing Project, which is by Michael Lewis, who wrote Moneyball, and it's on two Israeli psychologists, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. They won a Nobel Prize for essentially discovering behavioral economics, and it's about how you make decisions. It's fascinating. The other one that I got into, it's an older one. It's but it was excellent, and would recommend to anybody that's got a lot of plates spinning. Is Essentialism by Greg McCowan, and it's a good one. So I agree. We should get a list going. Maybe we just discovered or uncovered a new segment on the show.
Hey, Aaron, also, just before you go, I'm gonna. Sorry for interrupting you. I'm not going
anywhere.
I'm gonna throw a quick one at you because I'm just finishing it, and it's actually very thin. It's not a big book, and you may have heard about it. It was a book that Kyle Dubas had given all of the Toronto Maple Leafs a couple years ago. My son actually gave it to me, Brendan, and it's called
I know this one.
Carry Water. You know this one?
Oh, I don't know this one. Okay, I thought you were gonna pick something else. Okay,
yeah,
interesting.
So it's basically it's about creating habits, finding process, trust the process. That's a big Dubasism. But it puts it in a context of a story basically, and kind of the learning steps. But it's actually quite a thin book. I don't, maybe a couple hundred pages, and I'm actually having a hard time getting through it. Not because it's a difficult read; it's a very easy read actually, but because even with a chapter of a few pages, it's you just find yourself being kind of very reflective, kind of mind almost wandering, thinking about how does this apply to other stuff basically. So that's what I'm working on right now. I thought it was going to be a couple kind of a 2-day read sort of thing, but it's ended up being longer just because of that. So
gets the hamster spinning.
That's on my nightstand right now. Yeah, for sure.
I like that. All right. Well, we're going to put our heads together because I think this is, I love when people, it's not just books, but any resources. I love when people share the resources that, adds value or is a benefit just to their day to day. I was thinking about this though, this morning, Ian. Do you know how long you and I have been doing this for?
No, I don't.
Do you know?
I'm going to say 2 years.
No, this is year 3. We've been doing this for 3 years. It's feels amazing. Like we just, isn't that crazy? And I feel like if we had like before and after pics of you and I feel like I was thinking about this. I'm like, man, I feel like Ian looks younger today than when we started 2 years ago. Yeah, I can't say the same about myself, but do you know what it is?
I can't say
you can pull off the young guy haircut. Like you got the same, you have the same haircut that like every young man in high school went back to school with.
Oh, nice! Thanks a lot.
You can pull it off. I can't do that, but you can, and it's very good. You're a lucky man. So, all right. Well, I digress. And you know what? Yep. So we got it. This is the kickoff to the season. We've got a ton of exciting guests on tap for our listeners this year. However, there has been some changes at the OMHA. There has been some additions to the programming opportunities available to players, and we're going to bring in Michael Dundas, the OMHA's manager of hockey development, to discuss that and just make sure that everybody that's a part of the association is clear on what's going on. And I think it's always important we have these conversations. And I know even when I looked at them, I kind of go down the list. I'm like, well, why did this happen? Well, why did that happen? And I think it's always helpful that when we find out the why, then you're like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense now. Right? Like maybe I didn't understand it. So maybe I heard some people talking at the rink and they weren't fond of it. And I just naturally said, well, then I'm not going to be fond of it. But when I hear the why about it, it's like, okay, this does make a lot of sense. And it is, in fact, in the best interest of the kids. So with that in mind, we will be right back with Michael Dundas, the OMHA's manager of hockey development. The Coaches site is a proud partner of the OMHA, along with many of the top development organizations in the world. The Coaches site was created to provide hockey's top coaches, leaders, and performance experts with a platform to share their experience and insights with amateur coaches and minor hockey organizations, with the goal of enhancing the development opportunity for all players. A membership includes access to 500 hours of educational videos, a library of over 700 drills, articles breaking down the latest tactics and systems, and our newly released Initiation Skills Series, which provides a video-based development curriculum for the first 3 years of a player's minor hockey career. Regardless of the level you coach, the Coaches site is going to provide you the ultimate coaching toolkit. Listeners of the Breakaway podcast can save 25% off an annual membership by using the code OMHA when they register. Again, use the code OMHA and get registered today. Welcome back to Breakaway. We are pleased now to be joined by Michael Dundas, the OMHA's manager of hockey development. Mike, good to see you.
Great to see you, Aaron. How are you?
I'm awesome, but more importantly, how are you doing? You're a new dad. How's that going? Are we six weeks into this?
6 weeks in. It's a beautiful experience. It's been a learning curve, but it's been awesome.
Oh, you have no idea, buddy. Buckle up.
Oh, can't wait. It's been awesome. The amount they changed in 6 weeks is ridiculous. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
What is this young human's name?
Young name, first name Bodie. Kind of named after the great Patrick Swayze character from Point Break, but yeah, Bodie.
Oh man! Well, I'll tell you what. If you parent the next 18 years like you parented on the name selection, then this kid is this kid's in great hands.
Yeah, good first start. So.
Amazing.
All right, so listen, guys, we got a lot to dissect. We were just talking in the intro, Mike, about some of the changes, some of the new development opportunities for players in the OMHA, and wanted to bring you on and just provide a little insight as to maybe how these decisions are made and what is the desired impact or influence that they're going to have on the programming and opportunity for kids. So, but the first one I want to get to, and I've just been, is probably like a lot of people, you shut your hockey brain off for a little while, and then, you get into kind of mid-August and you start paying a little bit more attention. And the one that has stood out to me is this new campaign that you guys came out with, that hockey is fun. And it's fantastic. And it's not just, it's not just a slogan. Like, this is very much a campaign to educate families on all the benefits, both physically, socially, the impact in the community. And I just think you guys have done an amazing job of capturing all that. And if I'm being honest, I've sent it to so many people, in the grassroots community, and saying, hey, if you're not doing something, like, everybody needs to jump on this bandwagon. So I'm not sure who's responsible for this, but I'd love to get your feedback on, where this seed got planted and how you went from, idea to pushing this out to the world.
Yeah, it's a great campaign. I think, like hockey, it was a team effort. I think there's a lot of input from a lot of people on it. It's just a message of kind of changing the culture or the view of what hockey is and what it is maybe perceived as from non-hockey people, and welcoming them into a awesome game, hopefully a sport choice for life, and breaking down some barriers that might have been there that have prevented them from joining or signing up or registering to play or participate in hockey. So it's a great program. It hopefully will defeat some of those myths about safety and inclusiveness that are out there about the game of hockey and the sport, and bring people in that they want to participate, they fall in love with the game, and like us become participants for life. So that's the big goal of it, from the OMHA's perspective.
And Ian, like, just through your lens, like, I think it's very thorough. I think it provides great insights, but is there any that sort of jump out to you as being particularly important?
Well, I think, and Aaron, we've talked a lot about the game, how it's changing, how it's mirroring a lot of society, and as Mike mentioned, bringing new people to the sport. There's lots of options for people, but making it a welcoming place. So I mean, that's a huge part of that. But coming out of COVID, we initiated a registration campaign, stronger campaign, and that was the whole idea: coming back stronger after a very challenging time, and all the good things that hockey provides in terms of that social interaction, teamwork, cooperation, building those life skills, right? So and those remain ever as important as today as they were before. But then we also recognize hockey's gone through a lot of scrutiny, right? We've talked about that as well. So I think we wanted to speak as we are, and as we talk about the game. We're fans of the game, and why? And it all boils down to we love it. So we wanted to get that message across, that playing hockey is fun, that getting on two steel blades and gliding across the ice and having some wind in your face is just a brilliant sensation, right? So I mean, that was it. That's where it started. It started like, how do we convey how we feel about it to other people with all the other stuff, long-term people development. We went through that. Again, life skills, all of it. But let's get it down to, why do we love it? And a lot of the times we use this analogy. You're talking to a neighbor, or you're talking to again, you're dropping kids off at school, and that kind of over the back fence or driveway talk you have with your neighbor, and that's we kind of wanted to talk in that voice, so not technical, not tactical, not overly scientific on the and again, it's important, but on the child growth and development, we got all that covered, age appropriate, but just saying, like, and you guys both know, you're parents of young guys, young kids. They'll tell you what they enjoy and what they don't, and I imagine you will listen to them. So
yeah,
right. So
absolutely.
I mean, that's the essence of it. If they had a great time and they want to go back, you're like, yeah, great, we'll go back. Or we'll keep, or we'll make this part of our our kind of our lifestyle, or what we do as a family, and that's important. If you want to try something else, we'll try something else. But so I mean, it sounds like it's overly simplified, but you know what? It is overly simplified. Like, we wanted to get to the bare essence of it, and I think we all feel it. How do we get it across? You know what I mean?
Well, like I said, I mean, probably like you guys, I've seen a bunch of these campaigns, all in, I think, a great spirit of trying to promote the sport and engage new athletes and families to participate. I just think you guys knocked out of the park. And I would add, just
nice.
This is my own experience for somebody that's been involved in the game for a long time. Two really cool things happened in the last couple of weeks. One, my little guy started playing U6 last year when he turned 4. So that in itself was a cool experience. But what was cooler was going back to we had a little hockey school here in our little town.
Yeah.
And it was the first experience of, like, now we're in the locker room getting changed, and all the kids who we haven't seen since last season. I'm like, is he, because he's little, like, is he going to remember? And the kids come in and it's like, hey, Ozzy, and he remember. And it's just, you watch these kids, they were so pumped to see each other. It was, as a parent, like, it was just so cool. And then the second part is my son's daycare. The woman who owns it, she's Ukrainian. And so it turns out we've got, with what's going on overseas, we've got a bit of a Ukrainian community here in our town. And so a lot of families, for just some, heart-wrenching circumstances, have had to, uproot their lives and move here with their kids. And so we have a couple of Ukrainian kids, and one of them, his name's Miran. Him and my son have become best pals. And the parents are like, what does your kid do here? I'm like, goes skates, plays hockey. And they're like, well, maybe our kid. And and you'd love him. And the dad's a soccer nut and football, sorry.
Yeah.
And anyway, so we get Miron, like we go down to the equipment swap, we get him all set up with his gear, and he starts in this hockey school. And you never know how kids are going to react. Like, if it took him, half a second to fall down, he was up on his skates again in a quarter of a second. Like, he had the best time, fell in love with it, and you could just see, they could instantly, the parents were like, we didn't anticipate the community that it was going to offer. Like, just even in that first week, all the parents get together, they hear their story, they obviously want to make sure they feel welcomed. And anyways, It was great. So for all those things, it was just really, really cool experience. Another one that I want to get to, and I found this interesting because I've heard this brought up for years. I've never seen it implemented, and that is that you have introduced a non-body checking rep category. So Michael, how does this? I can't imagine this was probably like me. This isn't the first time that you had perhaps pondered as a fit, but what led to you implementing it?
Yeah, I mean, listening to our membership is a big part of it. It's seeing the trends with our registration, either dropping off at the U14 age group when body checking is introduced, and kids just not being interested in playing hockey that has body checking, or that more kids are trending towards recreational programming and going to house league, even though they still might want that competitive level of a representative experience, but they don't want it because there's body checking. So they choose a recreational stream and go to house league. So just listening to our membership, understanding that there is a huge desire for athletes that still want that rep feel, rep experience more times a week, a little higher competitive level of hockey, but they don't want the element of body checking and don't want to participate in that. So there was a definite need, or I guess ask from our membership, just based on when we do our surveys and our player experience, that if this was a programming option, there would be a high rate of participation. So we've introduced that this year. Haven't gone through a year yet, so can't speak to it. We're just back on the ice, so can't see how it's going. But I think the numbers are showing that there is some good bite and appetite for this programming offering.
That's fantastic, and I think that's great, because I feel like part of what has limited our sport in evolving is that particularly for being honest, like people of our generation. Michael, you're a little bit junior compared to Ian and I, but we still, anybody that sort of grew up with Coach's Corner and Rock'em Sock'em hockey, it's sometimes tough for us to step back from that, because it's part of what we appreciate about the game. But I mean, man, I'm 43. Like you couldn't pay me money to get body checked or risk getting bumped to it. I'm just not interested in it. And it makes total sense that some kids are just like, hey, I just want to play at a really high level and not have to deal with, especially that age group. I think we can all appreciate there's always some kids that it's not a fun environment when you got one kid that's maybe pulling away from that, but then you got other kids that are just leaning into it, and it's not a great dynamic. So kudos to you guys. And as you said, so it's been well received so far in terms of the participation.
Yeah, based on what we're seeing, Ian, I think we there's a bunch of associations that have chosen to offer this programming to their membership. They're obviously in the process of seeing what their rosters are going to look like now. We've just been back for 2 weeks, so yeah. But yeah, the appetite is definitely there from our membership.
Aaron,
fantastic.
I think I would add to that, saying, to your point about, how we learned the game, and there was body checking from the beginning, and again, we've had to educate, because I don't think everyone understands, especially if you're not involved in the game. You automatically think you see what's on TV. You and I have talked about this a lot. You see what was on the news last night or on the highlights, especially if there is, a big hit or something like that. But the reality is there's no body checking in recreational hockey. So house league, local league, there's none all the way up. It gets introduced at U14, so to 13-year-olds at the rep level, right? Well, we understand and we know that there's kids at that age grow at different times and at different rates, right? So to Mike's point, is that a reason why a kid would leave the game? Because they haven't grown yet. I mean, it's possible, or certainly that's the feedback we heard.
100%, yeah.
The other thing we heard was, if that player then who was playing, at a high level, then just came back to house league, now you've got a skill gap at house league, which isn't good for that player or for the player who's, again, maybe new to it, a few years in, and now that skill gap creates not the best environment for either player. So I mean, I think that's where this has really revealed itself, that we had players like that who wanted to keep playing, again, at the skill level that they were capable, right? Without just that one element of the game. And to Mike's point, the numbers so far are telling us that, that there was demand for this, and that our leagues, and I'll tell you, the one I was most surprised about, there's a league in the area where I live. They've got U18 non-body checking rep, U18. Like, so these kids still want to play, which is half of the battle, right? Give them an opportunity. And then this is clearly something that's they've decided they want to be part of. So on the overall scheme of keeping as many kids engaged for as long as possible, it's checking all the boxes for us. So that's,
you know what, and I'll just, before we move on, I'll make a prediction. I believe that this will be introduced nationally in the near future, and I think when we look back in 5 to 10 years, this will be a major driver to the registration increasing at a Hockey Canada level, because I think a lot of people would be hesitant to do it because they don't want to be perceived as soft or weak, and that might be coming from the player or the parent even. But I think as soon as they realize that there's not that stigma around it, that it's just fun, I think we're going to see. I think we're going to retain a large percentage, as you said, of those kids that drop off at the U15 age group, or 14-year-old age level. So that's awesome. The next one, the new U9 minor development category, and this is interesting because I know that across the country that there's different regions tackling this a little bit different. So maybe, Ian, can you just explain what this is?
Yeah, I mean, we introduced what we call rep hockey, representative at U10, 9-year-old. Yeah. So at U9 and below, that's where we're focusing on cross ice, half ice, and then the transition to full ice. So that's been something we've talked a lot about and has been put in place, age appropriate, reducing the size of the rink to reflect the size of the players. But what we're looking at this year is still grouping players by ability. So MD, minor development, would be our highest level of hockey at U9 and below. And basically it's just that, Aaron. It's giving the opportunity to tier or group players by ability. So again, we don't have a large skill gap. And but I guess the kicker onto that is that traditionally players at the highest level would also get more opportunity or more volume of ice time, practice games, that sort of thing. So in this scenario, what we're looking at is that all players should have access to the same volume of hockey that they choose, right? But still be tiered or grouped by ability. So again, someone who never touches the puck is not going to say hockey is fun and say, I want to come back, right? So the ability, one, to play with like skilled players, be able to learn, participate. As we all know, if we get better at something, we like doing it more, or we like to keep doing it. So that's really the essence of it. It doesn't sound, it's not earth shattering. We're not changing the laws of hockey or it's really just trying to do everything we can to give players a great start, to let them learn and enjoy the game, and then again, players will find, and we know this, they'll find their watermark or their water level based on what level do I want to play or how often do I want to play. And that's really, I think I'm going to get this quote wrong, but what rising tide lifts all boats or something. Is that even close? You know what I'm saying?
I think we all know where you were trying to land it there. So
Thanks,
we'll go with that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's amazing. So I think this one's really interesting, and I would just point out to anybody listening, because I think sometimes the pushback or argument can be, well, gosh, if my child is not in that grouping, then they're not going to have an opportunity to catch up. That's just going to create a chasm that can't be crossed. But I would say that all the data, and I mean, we're really fortunate that coaches say, like, we work with a number of European federations, some that I would suggest are pretty progressive and have the advantage of being small. Right. But what they found with the data is that generally when you have everybody grouped together, it's 1% of the players kind of control 99% of the puck touches, and that as soon as those players are removed, those other players get to touch the puck, and probably by way of just having reps plus more joy from playing because they actually feel like they can participate, they're able to catch up to those top players at that age level. And again, as parents, if we're being honest, we can't see 6 inches in front of our face, and it's like, lo and behold, gosh, by the time they get to U11, that player that might not play in that environment at U9 all of a sudden is caught up, if not surpassed the player again, just because now they're getting reps, they can catch up. And so again, I think it's just really important to point out that this isn't in the spirit of separating kids and putting them on two separate tracks. This is in the spirit of keeping the player, the talent pool, as large and as wide as possible for as long as possible, so that kids can affect, so you can have late bloomers, which, as we know, in all whatever, there's late bloomers and everything kids get into. So very important. And, I guess, of course, with all of this, Michael, this, for being honest, this puts a bit of a strain on coaches, because, you can have all the programming changes you want, but if coaches don't buy into it, if they don't get, invested in terms of how it gets delivered, it doesn't work. So how do you support coaches in ensuring that, they've got all the right resources and information to ensure that kids have a great experience with this?
Yeah, it's through our coach education delivery and ongoing professional development options. I mean, we do have lots of contact with coaches at the start of the season. We, coming out of the pandemic, when we've kind of been away from each other, we're now getting back into working with associations on the ground. We have a great group from the OMHA coaches program that work directly with local association. We have about 40 volunteers across the OMHA that can jump into a rink, work with coaches or a specific age group on program development from an association level, and how they can support them on the changes like frequency-based programming, for example, how you can implement that from an association level. So there are a lot of touch points throughout the season. It's ongoing. Obviously, this is new. So as we've seen with modified ice, it was kind of hesitant at the start, and now it's the new normal, I guess, for lack of a better term, that, from U9 and below, or U7 to U9, the ice looks different. It's a smaller playing surface. There's less bodies on the ice. There's more puck touches. We're not necessarily having face-offs. So it's a little different. 5 years ago, it was really different. Now you talk to anyone, and it's not like they're seeing it for the first time when they walk into the rink and there's boards across the blue line. So I think as we get into it year after year, it'll be more comfortable for associations and coaches, players, families to see, and the understanding of it and the philosophy of it will be adopted.
That's fantastic. And I just, again, I'll point out to everybody listening, if you haven't volunteered to coach minor hockey, it's not like you just put your hand up and then you tie your skates up and go. Like, there is, as you point out, there's a lot of education. There's a big process. Like before a coach even gets on the ice, there's a huge commitment and process they have to get through. So make sure you high five your coaches when you see them around the rink, and make sure you know that they're appreciated. Now we got a couple other items here that I want to get to, and we'll kind of go through this in rapid fire. So I'm going to assign each of you some of these to kind of enlighten us. And if I pick the wrong person to speak to it, just put your hand up and pass the baton. So first off, Ian, player goalie assist program. What is this?
Oh, those are two programs that we've had. They're ongoing programs that we've had. We started with the goalie assist. It's probably 10 years old, probably more. And then we started the player assist, and I'm going to say that was probably 3 or 4 years ago. Basically, this is working with our partner at CCM. We put together equipment packages for goaltenders and for players, and associations would basically, we put a call out for applications. They submit a request, and we'll select. I don't know, Mike. I want to say it was like 40 sets of goalie equipment, and I can't remember the number of player sets. It could be that or double that. So again, that associations can use as kind of loaner sets, especially when you get into goalie equipment, Aaron. And I know you being a goalie, the
Oh, you had to bring that up, didn't you? Okay.
The amount of the amount of money, especially if you just want to try it, right? So we're saying let's just try let's try hockey, but then I want to try. I want an opportunity to be in goal as well without having that financial commitment, and offering that for associations. So both player sets, goalie sets. And again, being able to use as try opportunities or loaners, or and again, Aaron, you mentioned with Ozzy's buddy from Ukraine, doing equipment swaps and associations are doing there. There's lots of ways. That's just one way that we're trying to defray costs and make it easier for people to have access to the game. And our associations are doing similar things, just as you said, equipment swap, sharing, try hockey, or maybe shorter periods of the season, not a full 24-week sort of thing. So those are all the ways we're trying to just make it easier to fall in love with the game, right?
No, it's fantastic. And for all the parents out there that allow their son or daughter to dip their toe in the goaltending waters, God bless you. Buckle up.
God bless the other one I'll throw in is our just because that's tied in with equipment, referee assist program. So that's again an equipment, an equipment support jersey. Is it just jersey, Mike, or is it pants as well?
No, it's just so our Force Sports offers. I think we're at like 150 referee jerseys. We noticed that referee registration for was low at the younger age group. So intro to refereeing, the 14 to 16 or 17-year-old that might want to get into it, numbers had fallen off. We still had referees that had refereed for numerous years, but new referees was a low number. So Force has given us 150 jerseys that we can give to new referees to alleviate the intro costs, because let's face it, they got to buy all new equipment with shin pads, elbow pads, the pants, the jersey, maybe a helmet, because they have to have a black helmet. Their team colors might not allow them to wear that helmet in both as a player or a ref. So just alleviate the cost of the ref jersey, get them into the game, kind of an added bonus for becoming a referee. It's a bit of a reward. So associations can nominate young officials that have taken the entry level clinics to become an official, to get them in a referee jersey, so that 14 or 15-year-old doesn't have to go out and buy one, so that they can get on the ice and skate and support their association.
That's amazing. And I know, just with all the associations and groups that we work with, and we pull them a lot. This is I think we all know what a big issue this is in our sport. So we've got a couple of things that we're working on, and some groups we're working with to say, how can we, support there being more kids participating as officials in their local programs, but I think also just educating kids that this isn't just like a hobby. Like this can be an amazing career if you take to it. So that's fantastic. Michael, the iPad assist program, and I'm assuming this isn't so kids can catch up on Ozarks when they're on between shifts.
It's not, but it falls into kind of those two buckets with player, goalie, and referee assist. We've now adopted electronic game sheets across the OMHA at all levels, so that's a bit of a lift on associations to provide the technology and the resource to do that at games in the arena. So we've created a program where associations can apply to receive some iPads that they can use with their timekeepers.
Oh, cool! Amazing.
To implement that and alleviate the stress of, there's a lot going on right now for registration, getting teams together, evaluation. So it's one less thing for an association to kind of have to worry about. They can give it to their teams or their timekeepers. They can use it during games so that everyone's on electronic game sheets, and in turn, it helps us with the data and understanding trends within our game right now. So
that's fantastic. And listen, I'll say, like, I mean, we all go through this with technology. Like, do you guys ever find, like, when you're on your phone, you're trying to find, a grocery store or whatever, you're driving around, you're like, how did people ever find things before? And it's the same thing with these iPads in the ring. Like, as soon as you use one, you're like, wait a minute, we used to come and like fill these out with paper before. Like, this is insane, but we did it. So, hey, kudos to anybody that took the initiative back then, but great initiative by you guys to simplify that process again by mostly volunteers who are taking the reins on that. Ian, jersey patches. What can you tell us about jersey patches?
Again, another program designed to or to provide associations with some additional funding. Basically, we've got I want to say it's Desjardins Insurance, where it's if they put that jersey on their jersey, they'll get sponsorship money back to their association. So I mean, all of these kind of assist programs and support programs, Aaron. One, we've got some great partners in each of them, but all of them have made the commitment to us to, again, try and make access to the game easier, whether that's, again, defraying costs, providing resources, that sort of thing. It's massive. It's massive. So the whole assist concept really, it grew from the goalie assist, and then we've just been kind of adding to it. And credit to our guys in the office, and Derek's been leading that for us, Derek Polowick. We've just kind of taken this assist mantra and put it in a number of different areas. So it's really cool, actually. So it's a story we can tell, and it's also it actually reaches the associations. Like this is actually going to get right back to grassroots, or where rubber hits the road, whatever you want to say. So these are massive, and like I say again, we couldn't do it without our sponsors in each of these areas, and great partners who believe in what we believe in. They believe in activity of kids and value of sport, and ultimately they believe hockey's awesome, like we do.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Awesome. And then Michael, so I know there could be a perception that you're walking around the OMHA offices with the cape on, and you're doing this all on your own, but of course you're not. You're more of a general of an army of volunteers and people that I think take these great ideas, these great initiatives that start at the head office. But then and again, I think what's amazing about your organization, it's so unique, not just in our country, but in the hockey landscape globally. You have such a large footprint. So when you have one of these great ideas or one of these great initiatives that has the opportunity to impact kids and families, it's one thing to have the idea, but then you got to expose, in your case, 1/3 of the players in our country to it. So what can you just say about just the volunteers and the people that step up to make all of this possible?
I mean, within the OMHA, without them, it's not happening, to be fair. create programs, implement them, give them opportunities, expose people to them. But without the volunteers on the ground at the local associations, like, it won't happen. I mean, we, player assist, goalie assist, we're dependent on associations seeing a need, applying for it, and then we take the application, we send them the gear, but then they implement it. They find the kids, or organize it within the players within their association to make it happen. It's no different than booking ice, creating and forming the teams. Without them, they make the engine run here. They, for sure, especially within our critical mass, we don't have, based on our geography and our numbers, we don't have the ability to run it out of our office alone. So we definitely are grateful for their support, tireless effort. Like, they just keep going. And it's amazing to see how willing they are to go above and beyond to help players and create hockey players for life.
No, well said. And just for the record, I only visualize you with a cape on, no matter what. So, Ian, just to wrap up here, I know this is really near and dear to your heart and why you're involved in this. Can you talk to the ongoing relationship that the OMHA has with organizations such as the Respect Group, the Carnegie Initiative? And I think this is so important because I think, like you, I mean, I hear a lot, given some of the circumstances that we've been made aware of in our sport. And it's, some people look at that and they're like, they paint the whole game with one broad stroke and say it's negative or it's bad. And I always push back and I say, look, like, nobody supports what's happened or agrees with it, but I don't want to use the word silver lining because that's not the right term to use. But it's really important that there's people like you, and you're one of many that take this stuff really seriously and say, okay, hey, like, we're going to get better from this. We're going to bring in, experts. We're going to educate ourselves, and we're going to make sure that we educate our membership to ensure that our game is going above and beyond just developing athletes and hockey players, and we're going to ensure that our sport is a classroom for young people, and that we're setting them up for success in all aspects of their life. What do you have in store, and how important is this to work with groups like this?
It's massive, Aaron, and I think what we recognize is much like a coach. Coach wants to teach X's and O's, tactics, skills, but it's not just that. And I heard a quote recently. It was from Simon Sinek, and Mike, we were talking about this, about how basically he said he wasn't going to refer to it as soft skills anymore. So we often talk about the soft skills of coaching. Yeah. And he said he was going to refer to it as human skills because the connotation of soft, right? It's you got your technical, tactical, but you've got the human side of it. And I think that's like that's where we want to focus. We want to focus on the people. And so much, we're in a similar situation. We've got involved in hockey because we love the sport. We love to teach it. We love, again, all those exciting elements of it. But we also recognize, we need to provide a safe environment. We need to provide an inclusive environment. So we want people to feel comfortable coming to our game, being involved in our game. But we aren't, sometimes it's oversimplifying it, say we're only hockey guys, but that's our area of knowledge, and certainly on the development side, in Mike's case, his area of expertise. So what we've chosen to do, and again, and we've had many of these conversations, is reach out to experts from other fields and bring them in. How can we make our sport more inclusive? How can we share messaging on how hockey is fun? How can we provide tools and support? Aaron, you mentioned previously, how much we ask of our coaches, and to give them a pat on the back. We have high expectations. We ask them to do a lot. Huge. With regards to qualifications and whatnot. But And again, many of them just want to teach us X's and O's, but it's not. It's so much more than that. So we're going to support them in other areas, right? And so again, the partnerships that we've created with groups like Respect and Sport, Sheldon Kennedy and Wayne McNeil, you know, we go to them, you know, and for the latest and greatest. When I want to know the latest greatest on hockey development, I go to Mike. When I want to know more about understanding behaviors and how to deal with that, I go to those guys. We're working with the Carnegie Initiative to make sure that we are a sport that's open to all, right? So this is a lot of learning for us, and a lot of I think one of the biggest lessons we learned was being comfortable to say, I'm not sure, you know, I'm not sure how we do that. Let's talk to, let's have relationships and talk to experts. And what we found, as in most cases, Aaron, you know, when we talk about coach mentoring, they're more than happy to, you know, they're glad we asked, and they want to be part of that, right?
I bet.
You know, so it's really been enlightening, and I would tell you, I am I love teaching hockey. I love I love technical, tactical, but again, I've really had my eyes open to that need to say, you know, if kids and parents don't feel safe, if they're not having a good time, if they're not having a good experience, technical, tactical means nothing, right? It means nothing.
100%.
So it's really interesting, and I guess I would just add on, and I know we've talked a lot about this, the role of the coach. Ultimately, the coach has the biggest impact on player experience. They're the one who spends the most time directly with the player. They're the one who provides that atmosphere or that sense of community. And so we're talking to our coaching instructors and Mike's guys, so they understand that importance. They understand so all volunteer coaches understand that they're our sales force in a way, and they're selling, the enjoyment and that great experience. So that's something we've talked a lot about. So again, as you said earlier, kudos to all the people who volunteer and who have that amazing impact on our kids, and responsibility, I guess I could throw at you too, you know, like it's an amazing thing.
For sure. And I would just, as we wrap up here, guys, I would say that, I think one thing I just want to hit on that you said, Ian, is that recognizing that you can do all the tactical and, on ice instruction you want, but if players and their families don't feel comfortable at the rink or feel like it's a welcoming place, that it's not going to translate. And I would say, just with the work we do at the coaches site, in working with, the best coaches in the world, man, they've drawn that. They've connected those dots, that if they don't enhance their own skills, and I love that you brought up the Simon Sinek quote about, moving from soft skills to human skills, because that's a much more accurate depiction of what they are. These NHL coaches are realizing that, they've seen what's gone on in the game in these last, 3 to 5 years. Right. If you don't get caught up, if you don't educate yourself, and you don't create that environment, then it's going to lead to poor performance. And so I think just important for everybody. And I'm sure this applies not just to sports, but in all walks of life. But again, I think just as a society, it's something we all need to get up to date on and embrace. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's going to provide better experience for our kids, and certainly just I think a better experience for all of our day-to-day interactions. So with that, guys, listen, I think, Mike, you mentioned we're 2 weeks into this as we record. Man, we got a lot of runway to go here. The season's going to be a lot of fun. Really excited. Obviously, Ian, to be riding shotgun with you on this season of Breakaway. And Michael, we're going to be seeing lots of you, and appreciate you making time to join us and educate our audience. And it's hockey season, boys. Let's go. Can't wait.
Let's go.